Hi, everyone. My name is Hillary Curran. I'm the Director of Customer Experience at Guru. I'm super excited to have everyone join us today for the Customer Experience Benefits, or CX, benefits of integrated knowledge with Salesforce. We're also joined today by Rob Falcone, who's Director of Sales Engineering at Guru.
Hey, Hill.
Thanks so much for joining, Rob. So both of us work at Guru. It's a software solution that brings together the knowledge you need to do your job as a customer-facing team member to you when you need it, wherever you're working. So when you have access to everything that you'd need when you're serving a prospect or a customer, you're empowered to tackle it head on, and you trust that information is accurate and up to date. And that's what Guru does. We're going to talk more about a lot of different other ways that you can integrate your knowledge. So Rob and I have both worked with hundreds of sales support and success teams for several years. And we're increasingly seeing 3 thematic challenges with customer-facing teams every day, which we're going to highlight today on our webinar. We believe wholeheartedly that smarter workflow integration is a solution, if not the solution, to all of these challenges. And we'll share our insights, our best practices, and talk more about the value created from using Guru's latest integrations with some of the leading platforms like Salesforce to solve this problem. Cool.
So most of the organizations that we work with are typically trying to solve for usually one of 3 main challenges. They're trying to improve their customer experiences, which they ultimately find challenging because their consumers are so time sensitive, and looking through all of these different knowledge bases and portals to find information when they're interacting with customers can be quite a challenge. Second is they're trying to ramp new hires and get them in front of customers as fast as possible. But that's ultimately challenging because they have a ton of products, really complex products, that it ultimately just takes the new hires so long to learn and feel confident with. And the third is that they're trying to drive cost and operational efficiencies. And as I said before, that can be really difficult when you have very high touch products, very complex products that require a lot of back and forth. And so finding ways to drive efficiencies can really help ultimately drive bottom line.
Awesome. So we wanted to see if, poll the audience and get an understanding if any of these 3, right, come top of mind to you, which is the most important for your support organization. So we just launched the poll. So the options are ramping new hires as soon as possible, improving and maintaining that customer experience, improving economics, such as decreasing the cost that your support team has, or improving and sharing information across your people and your teams. So it looks like there's still some answers coming in, but it looks like the number 1 thing, or the highest response, is actually improving information sharing across people and teams, which is music to our ears, because it's something that we try to work with and solve all the time. The other 2 responses were ramping new hires, which was second, and then improving customer experience. So cost was actually the lowest on the list, which is really interesting. Cool. So I wanted to share one customer story, potentially that is very related to that, creating an amazing customer experience. And this is, I worked with a customer at Intercom. Her name is Anita. She's a sales enablement lead. And Anita was really focused on improving the experience for customers were having with her support team by reducing the amount of time it took them to respond to a customer chat, right? The time is money, and she was trying to make sure that all the folks that were reaching out to Intercom were actually responding in a timely manner. And so they spent a lot of time searching across all their different knowledge bases, whether it lived in Google Drive or Salesforce or Intercom. There was a lot of places that knowledge lived, and so it would take a long time to respond to customers. And so now, with all of her team's knowledge integrated into Guru, her team has seen a substantial drop in the time it takes to first respond, which is a huge win for her customers' experience. Awesome. So now Rob is going to show us how customers can improve their customer experience and reduce the time, right? Like it does, like Anita did, to that first response by using Guru within Salesforce.
All right. So to start, and just for a little bit of context, Guru is where you can bring all of your knowledge together from across the organization and across all of your different knowledge sources. And so what you're looking at right here is an example of exactly that. You see knowledge that's owned by the sales team, by the support team, knowledge that's being brought together from Confluence, or, as we'll talk about a little bit later, from Salesforce knowledge. But what you're going to see throughout the examples that we go through is this knowledge being used by support agents in a number of different platforms that they're actually working, from Salesforce chat, Salesforce tickets, in a call recording solution, and even in Slack. And so that's really what we see with a lot of the teams that we talk to, is that as you guys voted to make folks more efficient and make that information sharing more efficient, you have to be able to deliver it where they're actually working. So in this first example, what you're going to see is a chat conversation between a B2B software vendor and a customer. Look at that, a customer chatting in. And so as we go back and forth, you're going to see Guru making suggestions that continually update based on the conversation evolving.
So you can see in the upper left-hand corner where the chat's coming in, this is happening back and forth. The information is being provided by the prospect or the customer, and then the agent is able to click on the Guru button, which will then give you suggestions, which will be showing you all of the information that may be relevant based on the chat that was brought to you. So in this example, Rob's looking for information that may be helpful to respond to this chat. And so he may ask for more information at first before he responds, just to make sure that he's really clear about what the answer would be. And so as more and more information is provided by the prospect or customer, you can see in the right-hand side in the extension that's popped open, Guru's updating all of those suggestions. And so that way it's going to give you the most accurate response. And it's really easy for Rob to copy paste things over from the cards, from all the knowledge that's been verified by his team, that's pulled from different places, and share that response with the customer in a really fast way. And so if Rob doesn't know if maybe the answer is somewhere else, and so the suggestions may not be right? AI is never 100% accurate. All I had to do was search manually and type in a word or a phrase that may be helpful, and can quickly find his answer that way. And so, over time, the AI will learn and become smarter based on all of the interactions that the support agent has with the tool, as well as everyone else on their team. So it's super easy to copy the content, right? There's buttons on the cards, and then you can easily paste those in to solve and give the most accurate information to the customer. Cool. So this is a big thing that we believe at Guru. AI should help agents rather than replace them. So in this example that we just showed you with Rob being the agent, AI was helping him as he solved this problem by giving him suggested information to check first based on all the other interactions and all the information that his team has used, and also allowing him to search on his own if he wanted to look for something else.
Yeah, and the cool thing here is that it really does give this one agent the expertise of many agents. And it also gives them the trust that this information is up to date and accurate, which you can see right here by this green check mark. So from what I've seen, this approach isn't necessarily critical when you have a really transactional support process, i.e. people reaching out saying like, how do I reset my password, or how do I change my email address? But where this comprehensive solution is really helpful, understanding that the information is up to date and having that information suggested to the agent, it's really helpful for those companies that have lots of products, complex products, rapidly changing products, where answering and helping the customer resolve an issue really does take more of a back and forth and that ongoing interaction, as opposed to just a one-off type chat. Awesome.
So the second challenge that a lot of teams face, which the poll showed us, was ramping up new hires. And so we have another poll, which is more around what specifically that is the challenge around ramping up new hires. And so is it, trying to get your new hire to understand your company's tech stack, following the company's procedures, understanding, all the company's different products as they're evolving, or just engaging with your customers in a way that you find, correct. And so it seems like there's still some answers coming in, but the number one thing that everyone, actually it's a mutually, everyone's in agreement that understanding the company's products and the services is the number one thing that most people are struggling with, which is awesome. And I totally can empathize with this, as at Guru, we have an evolving product as well. And so this happens where you want to make sure that everyone's up to date with all of the changes that your team is seeing. And so this is also super relevant based on a lot of our customers that we work with. And so one in particular is Slack, which is one of the fastest growing, SaaS companies. And so I worked with Shalina, who is a content strategist at Slack. And one of the hardest things that she was dealing with was her team was growing really, really rapidly. And she was having to make sure that, she spent time onboarding all of the new hires, but to make sure that they weren't necessarily spending months and months before they actually were able to do their jobs. And so what she was able to do after integrating all of her information in Guru, whether it lived in Salesforce, Google Drive, or Slack even, her team now can access all of that information in one place. And this has really been powerful for her team and has given them a ton of empowerment so that they feel like they're ready to get to work much quicker than they did before. Awesome. So, it's super important that our agents feel confident when they're hired in a new role. And so Rob's going to show us how customers do this by using Guru within Salesforce Service Cloud.
All right, thanks, Hill. So we're going to actually take a look now at Salesforce Service Cloud in a ticketing situation. And we're really going to go through two specific ways that folks can help get their employees ramped more quickly and give them the confidence when they're doing their job. So the first example is going to be how you can reinforce in context key points like high priority scenarios or product information. And then the second is how you can actually help coaches coach by giving them contextual information when they're actually helping the new hires and reviewing support interactions with them. So the first way you can accelerate the new hire ramp is providing them that in the moment in-platform coaching through those critical scenarios, like what you see here within Salesforce Service Cloud. So typically folks that we work with will have a number of different fields and flags within the ticket. In this case, you see priority is high. That's where we're going to be using for this example. But a number of you voted product information is really challenging for new hires. So you can imagine here that one of these fields might be the certain tier or product that this customer is on. You might want to push contextual information that might remind the agent about that product. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to push information on what to do when they're handling high priority cases. This is probably something that you've trained them on, but when they're in the moment, oftentimes people forget their training or they at least feel anxious that they might not remember what to do exactly. And so here, when I click the Guru button, you'll see that we've now got the high priority support procedure automated out so that anytime priority equals high in the case, this high priority support procedure is going to surface and be right here in the moment for the agent.
Wow, this is super cool, Rob. It's also been shown that, close to 70%, I think, of learning comes from on the job, not necessarily all the training. So this is really, really helpful. And the big win here is that in the moment, right, inside the platform that they're actually working, giving them guidance so that they're, becoming customer facing much sooner without the risk of them potentially sharing or doing the wrong thing. So this is a really great way for folks to learn, as they're actually doing their job.
Cool. Now we often think about the knowledge people need to do their job when we're talking about individual contributors, support agents, sales reps. But the same thing goes for coaches when they're doing their job. And this is something that we do a lot of here at Guru is think about how do we push out the information that the coaches need when they're doing their jobs. And so in this case here, imagine that a support manager is actually sitting down with a support agent, that newly hired support agent, and reviewing this customer interaction, this recording. We're using Chorus here in this example, but this same approach can apply to any specific software where a support manager and a support agent might be sitting down and reviewing their performance. And so in this example, similar to how I did within Salesforce, if the support manager hits the Guru button, you'll see here that because we're looking at a customer call, you've got the customer call coaching tips. So this creates a lot of consistency amongst the support agent and the support manager because both have the same rubric for how the call is going to be reviewed and graded. And it also then creates a lot of consistency amongst support leaders that all of them are running off the same playbook and coaching their reps in a similar way because when they're all logging in the same system to review calls, they all have the same coaching tips being pushed out in context.
Wow, this is really neat. The main outcome here for me, right, is getting to see all those new hires get up to speed as fast as possible. But this is also like a huge win for when you have a scaling team and a really quickly growing team. So if you have a consistent coaching framework in place, right, all of those managers and coaches are going to be able to push to potentially manage more people, right? Because they have training and they have the resources. If they forget in the moment, they have those like for them sitting there. And it also support the agents, right? So that they're all getting the same feedback and the same guidelines. Really neat. So one more story that I wanted to share, which is related to our third and final challenge at Team C, is increasing internal efficiency. And when I thought about this challenge, the customer that came to mind was Bitly, which is a super fast growing tech company. And Brianna is a revenue team project manager who I've worked with there. And Brianna was really heavily, her team had a ton of communication. They would always talk to each other, whether it was in Slack or an email or throughout some of their different solutions that they used. And so there were a lot of channels of communication where support reps or sales reps could ask the engineers technical questions. And this was happening all the time, every day. But what's happening is over time, all of these engineers were getting the same questions over and over and having to spend time out of their day to search through where they had answered the question previously and copy paste it or just answer it again. It was killing all their productivity. And so what Brianna has done is now by integrating all the knowledge across all of the systems that her team uses org-wide, her team can now spend time answering questions that they actually don't know the answers to, right? And that they're trying to solve. And the engineers can get back to actually doing their jobs and not necessarily answering the same technical questions over and over again, which is a huge win and a huge, increase in sort of the efficiency of her team. So now Rob is going to walk through how to unify information, which is exactly what Brianna did at Bitly. And in unifying all this information that lives in Salesforce Knowledge, this could be a way that several other content sources, right? All the places that you have information, being able to leverage that where you're working so that the knowledge that your team needs is ready, and all the information that all the time that they've spent investing in building out all these knowledge solutions is great, but now it's all integrated and unified and then you can use it wherever you're working. So Rob's going to show us how that works.
Yeah, so I think the core point that Hillary made there is really about extending your investment. This is particularly true in enterprises where there are a number of different systems that people and money have been invested. And so it's typically not a case of whether or not to use system A or system B, but it's really about how to make the different systems work together and ultimately be present where employees are spending most of their time. And so Salesforce Knowledge is a really good example. What happens from speaking with folks that use Salesforce Knowledge is that it's a really great repository and where a really robust knowledge source can be held, but it often takes a lot of time for people to go back into Salesforce Knowledge when typically they're spending more time either in Salesforce cases interacting with customers or in Slack interacting with their peers. And so what we want to be able to do is unify this information with all the other information and then bring it to the places where they're working. So you'll see here, this is an example of one particular article within Salesforce Knowledge. And then when we take a move over to Guru, again, as I mentioned, we have a number of push button syncs that allow you to unify that knowledge from Salesforce Knowledge with all of the other pieces of information that you've got from your other systems in this one single source of truth. So if I navigate down the Guru hierarchy to the Salesforce Knowledge sync, you'll see that here is that exact article as it's presented now in Guru. Intentionally preserves all of the original formatting, and it also intentionally delineates with a yellow marker that this is information that's synced and lives in a third party. And so you'll recall in the first example, we showed that green card that showed it was maintained in Guru and using Guru's verification system. This again just reminds folks that this is coming from some other place, but it's obviously accessible to them, not only here in Guru, but as you'll see in a couple minutes, in other systems that they're working.
Wow, this is really cool. So now agents know that they only need to check one place for the information instead of 10, right? I don't know about you, but I often have like 20 browser tabs open with all the different knowledge bases and places where I'm communicating with my team. And so this is really powerful in that, it brings all that into one place. And it's how you can extend that single source of truth to be leveraged anywhere you work. So now that it's all in Guru, you may have invested a lot of effort into organizing your knowledge across all these other solutions, which is great. But now it's all in Guru and you can leverage it in all these other places that you're actually doing your day-to-day job.
Okay, cool. So let's take this a little bit further. Once the knowledge is synced from Salesforce Knowledge into Guru, it really can then extend out to all the other examples that we talked about so far in this webinar. So whether it be AI suggesting information in that live chat, or pushing out automated rules based on specific criteria like priority equals high, or as we'll see here, whether it's used by a team in Slack. And so this is the scenario that I often see happen when I'm working with support teams, that when someone can't find information that they need to interact with a customer in a matter of 5 to 10 seconds, what do? They go to chat and they shout it to everyone in a public forum. So do we offer static IP addresses? Does anybody know if we're able to mix authorization server tokens? And so this is where the beauty of having that information synced from Salesforce into Guru comes into play. Because what I can do as a colleague of Zach's is when I see that he asked this question, and I know that we do have some information related to this in Salesforce, all I'll need to do, because we've done that sync into Guru, is click here and then click answer with card. What this is doing then is searching all of the different information in Guru against that specific search query. And so what's nice here again is that whether it be information that lives natively in Guru or that information that's been synced over from Salesforce, it's all available here. And so in this case, I, as Zach's colleague, choose to answer with card. And then here's that exact same card that we were looking at in Guru and in Salesforce, now being delivered in the moment when my colleague has a question.
Wow. This is a really great place for us to kind of pause and end, because it really does highlight the difference in the way a lot of organizations approach information. Instead of portals, which was more old school, right, where knowledge sat and got stale, and there was folks that had to go and update it all the time, and you had to check it, waiting for people to come find it. That information is organic and it's evolving and your products are changing. And so it needs to be really active. So this is really cool because you can sync all this information or integrate all of your information across all the different places that it lives, and then leverage it and augment all the places that you're working with that information that is verified and accurate. So it's really, really cool example. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes for Q&A. So would love to have anyone chat in with questions. There's a couple coming in right now. Let's see. 1 second. So what does the setup and integration of Guru's AI capabilities into Salesforce entail, and how much ongoing management does it require? That's a great question. I would say the setup's super simple. It is like a click button, which is what Rob mentioned earlier. You have to authenticate into Salesforce in order to set it up. One of the things that's important to note about any AI is that it does take time to learn. And so, setting it up, it may not have the top 100% correct suggestions the first day you turn it on, but over time, as more and more people interact with it and it learns what people find useful and use and what people do not use, it will become smarter. And so we've had teams that do implement this and see in a really exponential accuracy change over time as more and more people engage with it. So I would say, the setup's super simple, but it does take some time to allow it to learn.
One other note there, what Hillary mentioned with respect to usage not only in an AI context will help train the algorithms, but one of the other parts of this question is how much ongoing management does it require? Mm-hmm. When you're doing some of the things that we talked about and really pushing it in people's faces when they're working, it's obviously going to be more adopted. And that increased adoption is going to help you know what to do next. And so if people are engaging with a certain piece of knowledge more and more, that's going to help you know maybe this is the type of content that you should be creating. Or if you see now people are using it so much that they're also searching and not finding information, that's going to help you know what to actually spend time creating because it doesn't exist. So that's one of the other pieces here, is that increased adoption really will help the owners of knowledge know where to point their spear and how to spend their time.
Awesome. So a couple other questions. This next one is, what content should continue to live in Salesforce Knowledge versus Guru natively? And I would say, Salesforce Knowledge is great for managing external content that will continue to live in places like an external help center. But Guru is really great for all those internal processes and procedures that are maybe changing really rapidly. Because of the verification engine, you can have folks own that and make sure that they keep it up to date. On a similar vein, we have a lot of customers that also have an LMS solution and a learning management solution that they're using to train. And so, an LMS is very different in that it's a training. It's more of a point in time training where they're maybe getting onboarded with that. But Guru is a supplement to that. And so for short and sweet answers, more of that just in time information is the way to delineate between what information should live where. Cool. One more question. Any tips for larger CS teams with lots of agents to ensure good knowledge, best practices, and management? So many tips. I would say it's really important to have at least one or two people that sort of are the point folks on making sure that things stay up to date, whether that's just making sure that your information gets cleaned periodically, or also making sure that there's a hierarchy or a titling structure, so that way it's easier and people are trained on how to search across all of your content. And if you have a lot of people contributing to the knowledge base with a lot of agents, things can get messy really quickly. And so making sure that there's a guide or more of a precedent for how you should title and structure different pieces of information is really important. Cool. What are other common support platforms besides Salesforce that Guru supports? Rob? There's a bunch. We support Intercom, Zendesk. We work with a lot of teams that use Guru on top of any browser. So if you're using a homegrown platform that's inside of a browser, you can use Guru on top of it. So cool. Any more questions? Wait a couple more minutes. Maybe one more. Let's see. Are there any analytics or insights on what knowledge a customer success team is using or searching, or customer support team, and best practices for how you've seen those insights used? For sure. So our product does offer analytics on the back end, so you can actually see how your team is engaging with the knowledge that you have inside of Guru. So if you've synced information, you can also see if folks are engaging with those cards in Guru, which is really helpful for awareness as to what your team is using, what they're clicking on, how they're engaging with it across all the different platforms that they're utilizing this knowledge, whether it's in Salesforce or Google Drive or Guru. If it all lives in Guru, you can see which of those cards are being utilized the most. And so it's really, really helpful for content writers or enablement people, or even product marketers or product managers to understand what information your team is searching for the most and utilizing. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think we're going to end it there. Really, really great question. So thanks to everyone for all of your thoughtfulness. We're really excited. As far as next steps, if you're an existing customer, please look out for our follow-up email. We're going to have links to all the documentation on all the features that we covered. And then if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to our support team, either in-app, through chat, or with support@getguru.com. And if you're not a customer yet, but you're interested, please check out our follow-up email. We'd love to set up time to talk with you. And you can also start a free 30-day trial today if you just go to getguru.com and click there and walk through those steps. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thanks, guys.